There is a weapon that won hundreds of naval battles in the early 18th century, a weapon so fearsome that sailors preferred to surrender rather than face it. A weapon that fired no cannon shots, launched no cannonballs, and yet terrorized the seas from the Caribbean to the Indian Ocean. This weapon is a simple piece of black cloth, the Jolly Roger, which was the pirate's flag. But behind this symbol, which has become legendary, lies a real military strategy. Because the Jolly Roger is not romantic folklore, it's a psychological weapon carefully designed to win without fighting. Today, we'll explore the origin, symbolism, and tactical use of one of naval history's most effective psychological weapons. Before discussing pirates, we must first understand a key aspect of modern naval warfare: flags. In the Navy, we refer to ensigns and pennants instead of flags. Ensigns are crucial for identifying a nation, an officer's rank, or sending signals. Ensigns form a coded language. So here are a few examples. A lowered ensign indicates that the ship is defeated and is surrendering. The red flag is a sign of combat, no quarter. In other words, no prisoners will be spared. The white flag, on the other hand, is a sign of peace or truce. The black flag in Royal Navy signals a mutiny on board. For Royal Navies and privateers, ensign use is highly codified and complex, forming a crucial long-distance communication system before radio existed. But for pirates, it's a different story. To get close to their prey, pirates first fly their national ensign. So, a merchant ship that spots a French or English Navy flag has no reason to worry until it's too late. And yes, half-loaded cannonballs, an obvious hostile flag, and a knife in your teeth is the best way to get hit with a cannonball. And the pirates understood that very well. And so, in this context, at the very beginning of the 18th century, a new flag appeared that would become a formidable psychological weapon, invented by a Frenchman, the Jolly Roger. I was surprised to learn that the first recorded use of the Jolly Roger was in 1700 by French pirate Emmanuel Ouen, who raised it during a battle with the British Royal Navy near Cuba. The British archives describe the flag as follows: a black flag with crossed bones, a skull, and an hourglass. But then, where does this strange British-sounding name, Jolly Roger, come from? The origin is still debated today, but there is a hypothesis that seems consistent given the context in which the term appeared. It comes from French buccaneers who called the no-quarter red flag Jolly Rouge, as mentioned earlier. This term was then adopted and altered in English, becoming Jolly Roger to refer to pirate flags as a whole. How is this black flag connected to the Jolly Rouge? Pirates initially used the same flags as the regular Navy, with a specific use of black that served as a kind of ultimatum, giving the opponent the chance to surrender in order to be ransomed. In fact, in the 17th century, that is before the appearance of the Jolly Roger, pirates used the same flags as the regular Navy, including a red flag, sometimes with symbols, to start battles. In the 18th century, however, pirates often simply raised their black flag, which served as an ultimatum, often accompanied by one or more warning shots. If the targeted ship does not surrender, the attack is launched without further formalities, which may explain why this flag is also referred to with the term rouge by sailors who are not French speakers. Note that practices could vary, however, especially if there were several pirate ships and an instruction needed to be communicated, in which case a red flag could still be raised so that each ship understood it was time to take action. But why then was the color black chosen? Well, there are several motivations, but historians first present a purely practical reason. Black is the simplest solid color to make for a flag. The text also notes black's deliberate association with death and mourning, along with its use as a symbol of rebellion. As for the skull and crossbones, they take up a well-known theme in European culture, so the pirates were simply reusing a symbol that was already familiar and used. For pirates, this symbol is not just a threat to their victims, but also a distinctive sign that belongs to them. This is how gradually pirate captains decided to personalize their Jolly Roger with particular symbols. That's why we usually see symbols like the skull and crossbones, representing death, and the hourglass, sometimes with wings, showing time's passage and life's brevity, but also the limited time the opponent has to decide, surrender or fight. Sabers and weapons symbolize the violence awaiting those who resist, while pierced hearts and drops of blood are meant to intimidate. As you can see, these elements are part of an overall intimidation strategy that is carefully thought out, with the goal of limiting battles while maximizing captures. But was this Jolly Roger tactic really used by all Western pirates during the golden age of piracy? And above all, was it really effective? The Jolly Roger was mainly used by British pirates, although some French and Dutch pirates also had their own versions. And what's interesting is that each captain personalized his flag in order to build his own reputation. Here are some revealing examples. Captain Jack Rackham, for instance, flew a Jolly Roger with a skull and 2 crossed sabers, which was simple, effective, and was later used in Pirates of the Caribbean. Captain Blackbeard, who was the most theatrical in a way, flew a white devil holding a spear, pointing it at a bleeding red heart. The devil probably symbolizes Blackbeard himself, and given his reputation, the message is unmistakable. Captain Bartholomew Roberts even had 2 different flags. The second of the 2 is particularly interesting because it shows the captain armed, walking on skulls, bearing the initials ABH and AMH, a Barbadian head and a Martinican head. Roberts literally displayed his personal vendetta against Barbados and Martinique on his flag. It was a targeted threat, and even more terrifying for ships from those regions. Captain Thomas Tew was more understated, as he simply displayed on his flag an arm brandishing a saber, which needed no further explanation. This diversity is not insignificant. It proves that the Jolly Roger was not a passing fad or mere folklore, but a true tactical weapon, adopted and adapted by most Western pirate captains of the time. Each pirate captain thus seeks to create his own banner, both for his crew and to play on their reputation. Because in the psychological warfare he wages, reputation is nothing less than a force multiplier. But how was this weapon actually used? After all, the interest of the Jolly Roger doesn't just lie in its image, but obviously in its tactical use. Pirates first hunt for isolated merchant ships, sometimes going weeks without finding any. When a target is spotted, the pirates use their first trick. They simply raise the same flag as their prey. If they spot a French ship, they'll raise the white flag of the French Royal Navy. For an English ship, the British flag. The merchant, reassured because he thinks it's one of his own, drops his guard and continues, letting the pirate ship approach. Usually when they're within cannon range, the pirate shows his true nature and raises the Jolly Roger. The merchant ship realizes the danger too late and can no longer escape. The confrontation becomes inevitable. The appearance of the Jolly Roger is then like an ultimatum and virtually starts a countdown, often accompanied by 1 or more warning shots. The sailors of the merchant ship must quickly decide whether they want to fight or if they prefer to give up their cargo to save their lives. The goal here is to intimidate so that the merchants won't risk their lives for goods. On the pirate side, this tactic is based on a fairly obvious military logic. Pirates have every reason to avoid combat, and that's for 3 reasons. The first reason is that at the time, medical resources on board were limited, so an infected wound in this context was often fatal. Even a minor wound during a boarding action could condemn a man. It's better to seize a ship without fighting than risk losing men. Second, every surrender, even without a fight, is a victory that boosts both the captain's reputation and the overall image of pirates. Associated with the Jolly Roger, the flag, and what it represents, becomes an even stronger deterrent weapon for the captain. The third is a reason that we don't necessarily think of, but which is actually quite obvious since it's economic. A fight that is won without firing more than a few warning shots and without a pirate or the targeted cargo being lost is simply much more profitable. In short, raising the Jolly Roger at the right moment becomes an optimal tactic both militarily and economically. However, the use of the Jolly Roger by pirates is only documented at the beginning of the 18th century, during what is called the Golden Age of Piracy, which is roughly between 1690 and 1730. And after 1720, the Jolly Roger gradually disappears. But why? Well, quite simply because the great naval powers of the time, England, France, and Spain, decided to put an end to piracy in the Caribbean and the Indian Ocean. The Royal Navies methodically hunt down the pirates, pirate bases are destroyed one after another, while the captains are captured and publicly hanged. With the pirates gone, their psychological weapons lose effectiveness, since terror only works if the threat is credible and consistent. But even though the Jolly Roger disappeared from the seas in the 18th century, its image has survived to this day. It has become the universal symbol of piracy, to the point that we sometimes forget its original purpose. So the Jolly Roger was not just a simple folkloric flag, it was truly a tactical tool that was part of a psychological strategy allowing battles to be won without firing a single cannon shot. It's a weapon that reminds us of a timeless truth about war. Sometimes the greatest victory is won without fighting. A big thank you for watching this documentary. If you enjoyed it, don't forget to give it a thumbs up and subscribe by clicking on the little bell. If you can, join the D-Mystif Histoire community on Taipei. Your financial support is essential. It allows me to keep producing these documentaries, to work with illustrators, to purchase licenses, especially for documentaries about the Second World War, to work with historians, especially Simon Joseph for this documentary. And that's what will allow us to keep making these documentaries, even as the whole YouTube environment is changing. And indeed, there is less money. As for current partners and institutions, maybe we sometimes get fewer views, but the goal isn't the views themselves. Of course, it's about producing documentaries that speak to you, who come across these documentaries today, who love the D-Mystif Histoire channel. Whether it's for its series on World War II or Indian topics, we'll actually have the chance to cover them again. Very soon, I'll tell you more about it, and we'll actually have the chance to go to India for that, and to talk about the French East India Company in its former capital, that is, in Pondicherry. I'll tell you more soon, but here too, of course, your support is absolutely essential. So, if you have the possibility to do so, whether it's 1 or 2 euros per month, it's essential, and that's what will allow us to keep doing what we love to do here, and what we do with great pleasure. To wrap up, I have a question. Do you think the walking the plank was real? No? Well, the next documentary is for you.